Okay, welcome to part 2 of tips and tricks for Spad.next for the multi-panel. In this video here, we're going to focus on the configuration in Spad.next and how to configure the settings that you've seen from part 1. So if you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend you check out that video first, because that's going to show you a rundown of all the features that and configuration changes I've done for the multi-panel. So check that out first and then come back to this video when you're ready for the configuration. Now, first to start out, the quickest way to import all the settings that I have, because there's lots of them, there's tons of configuration changes in there. The quickest way to import that into your profile is with the online snippet. Now, before you do that, what you're going to want to do is go to Profiles here. Select the profile you normally use. In my case, I'm going to use the Sim P3D. And go up here and go New Profile from this. Now what that's going to do is that's going to create a new profile that you can use for testing, for monkeying around, and for making changes to. That way you don't affect the normal profile that you use right off the bat. So if you make any changes or and it's something you don't like, or you don't have to worry about it ruining your current settings. So we're just going to call this test for now and click OK. And see how this created a new test profile? So let's double click on that. You'll see up here that we're now in the test profile. So now we're free to make any changes to the test profile and not have to worry about affecting your profile that you normally use. So let's go into panels here. And multi-panel is already up. We'll just click anywhere here to select it, and you can see the different values that are configured. So some of these, like especially the buttons here, like when you click on these, like look at all this. There's tons of different configurations for the buttons, and not mentioning the flaps up and flaps down. Lots of different configurations. So you could program one of these configurations one by one, or even copy and paste them one by one into your normal profile, but that's going to take such a long time. So the easiest way to get all of this all in your profile in one shot is via the online snippets. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So what you're going to want to do is, with this selected, anything, it doesn't matter, anywhere up here, click on online snippets. And then we're going to do a search for my profile. So we'll just go up in the search box. And the easiest way to find the stuff that I created is just do a search by my username. So if you type in Vader Mike, even the first couple letters from Vader should populate this here. We'll just expand this so we can see what's going on. And yeah, so you see this is Vader Mike's multi-panel customization. And that's the one we're after right now. Now in the future, I'm going to have more online snippets posted for like the radio panels and some of the other stuff I'm doing. But for now, this is the one that we're after. So if I just single click on this here, you'll see it populates down here. And you'll see the author's me, the date it was published, the features it's using, and a comment. So my comment here, I just got a link, a YouTube link for the YouTube video for part 1. So it just says, for a complete description of the features, check out this video. So hopefully you guys have already seen that, so you know what exactly what this profile will do. So once we got it selected, we can click on OK. And it's going to ask you, do you want to replace all events defined for this device, or just use or add them to your existing? So in this case here, since I got so many different configurations, we're going to do yes, because if you do no in this case, it's going to conflict more than likely with the stuff that you already have in there. So let's click on yes. And since this is a test profile anyways, it doesn't matter if it overwrites everything you have in your current multi-panel, because it's a test profile anyways. We're just doing this to test out and for you to see which features you like. Okay, so now that we got this imported, let's go ahead and save this in the test, so it's in case something crashes, we can get back in there easily. Now let's just test out to see if my import settings work on your profile. So for example, I have my flaps up and down reconfigured to increase my altitude by 2000. So let's go ahead over to my panel here and just click this up a few times. Yep, see, that's working. That's good, going down. And I got my pitched wheel to increase and decrease the vertical speed. We'll check that out. Yep, it's going up and down by 100 each turn I do, so that's looking good. Okay, and let's go and check like the heading button here. We'll see the thing here, short mode, long mode. Yep, that's all looking good here. Okay, so now that we got all this imported correctly, just go ahead and check out all your different settings here, all the different buttons and everything, and make sure it's working on yours. And I'll show you how to configure this one by one, and we'll take a look from there. Okay, after you've tested everything and confirmed that it works in your test profile, you can now choose what you want to import into your regular profile. So for example, let's say the only thing that you wanted out of this whole entire configuration here is just to change the trim wheel so that you have the the vertical speed increased by 100. What you can do is we'll click on the trim wheel here, and we'll see what the variables are in here. So down here it's telling you that nose down will increase the vertical speed by 100, and nose up will decrease the vertical speed by 100. So if those are the two things that you want to import, and that's all you want to do, you want to keep the rest of your profile as is, what you can do here is click on the down arrow beside edit event, and then go to copy. And then in this case here, you got choices. You could do the complete device if you want to do everything on here, but that's not what you want to do in this case. You just want to have just the trim wheel settings. So if you do this event, what that's going to do is it's just going to copy the one event that's highlighted. So in this case, it's the vertical speed increment to 100. But if you want to do the both events that are in here, you would do all events. So that's going to copy all the events that are in here for just the pitch trim. So let's do that. So we'll copy this here, and then we'll go to profiles, and then we'll go into the profile that you want. So whatever profile you normally use for testing purposes, let's just do this one here, my Sim P3D. We'll go to panels. Now in my case for the trim wheel, I already have these in here because these are settings I normally do. But in yours, you're probably going to see something like pitch trim up and pitch trim down. So what you would do in that case is you would just delete this event, delete this here, so you have everything in here cleared, and then click on the arrow, and then go paste. And then, yep, you want to paste this in. Okay, and then these are the events that are pasted in here that you just copied from the test profile. So now, in this case, you can go over to your trim wheel on your multi-panel and do up and down test, make sure it's working. If everything's to your satisfaction, you see it's working, you like it and everything, you can go ahead and click save here. So let's go back out here. I'll show you something else. And I'm not going to save that because that's already working, so I'm going to click no here. We'll go back into test profile, back to panels. Okay. So if you want to save, let's say something in depth, like for example, if I go to my nav button, you see there's tons of different configurations in here. So that's where really, where you're going in here and doing copy and doing all events, that's where it's really going to save you a lot of time rather than configuring each individual event. Okay, now let's look at how you can tweak or fine-tune some of my settings to suit your particular customization. So for example, let's go to flaps up. I'll just click on here for flaps up, and you'll see that my particular variable is set to increase my altitude by 2,000. But you might be flying, maybe you only fly 737s or 777s or something like that, and you want to increase this to 5,000, so each click will increment by 5,000 instead of 2,000. What you can do is double click on the variable, double click on the action here, and we could just change this to whatever you want. So you can change this to 5,000, and we'll click OK. Oh, by the way, you know what I'll show you too? I have limits on here right now. So I have the minimum limit as 2,000, the maximum limit as 45,000. So in other words, once I keep clicking, I'll show you that in a second here. Show you what the 45,000 means. Okay, so we'll click on OK here. Now I'm at 12 right now. I'm going to click on my flaps up button, and now you will see it increments by 5,000, but the maximum this will go to is 45,000. See, I'm still clicking up, but my max is 45,000 because you know what? I'm never really going to fly higher than that anyways. So there's no sense having a variable go all the way up to like 90,000, right? So now if I click down, flaps down, you'll notice that's only going down by 2,000. The reason being is because we haven't changed the flaps down button. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll go into flaps down, and we'll see that we have the variable here. Double click on that, and this is decrementing it by 2,000, and we want to change that so that's also 5,000. Okay, we can click OK. Now you could change the minimum to 0 if you want, but I'm never going to have my autopilot altitude set to 0, like never, right? So that's why I got a minimum of 2,000 here, and I'll show you what that means. It's going to be exactly the same thing as the 45,000, but clicking down, see how I'm still clicking down, 2,000 is my minimum. That's why I love the range. The ranges are really good. So now we got up set to 5,000, down set to 5,000. So that's how you could change something like that. Hey, you know what? Speaking of ranges, remember in my part 1 video, there's something I got to fix. Let's go ahead and fix that right now. My IAS, if I click my flaps down button while it's at 0, it goes to 990, which is not the way I want this to work. So obviously that's a mistake. I'm going to correct that right now. So I'm going to do my dial to get me above 0 here. What flaps up and down should do is it should decrease and increase by 50, which it is. But the problem is if I'm lower than 50 and I click one more time, it goes to a negative value. So that's going to bring me below 1,000. So let's fix that here. Okay, so let's go to flaps down in my IAS setting, and we're going to change the airspeed variable. And what we're going to do, double click on this here, we'll see what's going on. Yeah, so here's my problem. See, I don't have limits on, so I'm going to turn limits on here. So I'm going to make the minimum value for my IAS 100. The reason being is because I'm never going to set my autopilot IAS to like 50 or 20, right? That's way too slow. You enter a stall and the plane will freaking crash. So even 100 is kind of low, but you know, just for the sake of doing this, we'll have it minimum 100, maximum 500. So let's go ahead and check this out and see if this works. Okay, so I'm at 120 now. So if I hit flaps down button now, it should go to 100 and it shouldn't go any lower than that. Yep, see, keep going. 100 is my lower, and my max should be 500. Oh, well, I don't have max set for my flaps up, so let's do that. Flaps up, we'll go to the airspeed, and oh yeah, see, I don't have it set here either. So yeah, we'll do a range here as well. Do minimum range 100 to 500. Okay, that should work now. So let's go down. Now 500 should be the max I go up, and it is. Okay, so we're all set there. So now we can save this, and now my IAS is fixed. Okay, now I'm going to show you some configuration examples from scratch. So let's go to, let's do flaps up for now. Now let's say we're just going to, you know what, for the sake of argument, we're just going to delete all this here. Okay, we're going to set this up completely from scratch. And we'll do the same thing for flaps down too. Okay, so we're going to treat this as if nothing's been configured for this and we want to do a configuration. So let's say we want to do this as absolute normal behavior. So the flaps up button will retract the flaps, and flaps down will extend the flaps. What we can do is we'll start with flaps up first, and we're going to go add event, and we're going to do an add short event. I'll show you what long does too in a minute here. Now what we're going to want to do, you don't have to worry about condition right now because this is going to be based on no conditions. We're just going to worry about the actions. So we're going to add an action, and we're going to add a simulation event. Okay, now these are all the different events you can do. Now I'm going to select SimConnect and actually turn off FSUIPC. And one thing I should mention, guys, a lot of the default configurations, they're all going to work with Spad.next unregistered version, but a lot of the advanced features and you know, some of the FIP functionality and some of the FSUIPC variables, you actually have to have a registered event for that to work. So if some of my multi-panel commands don't work on your configuration and you're not a registered user of SPAD, you have an unregistered user, unregistered license, that could be why it's not working. I just thought I'd throw that in really quickly now. So yeah, I'm going to use the SimConnect variable, and we're just going to search up here for flaps. Helps if I spell it right. Okay, so this will narrow everything down by flaps. So what we want here is we're doing the flaps up, so we want to retract. So yeah, flaps decrement, that's one we want. And just click on OK. Click on OK again. And now we'll do the down. And add event, short, add action, and simulation event, and flaps. And this is going to be extend this time, so increase, increment. Okay, click OK, OK. So now my flap lever for both up and down should have increment and decrement. So let's do flaps down. Yep, and it's working. My flaps are going down. And I can go flaps up. Yep, and it's working. Okay, so there we go. So that's how you would set up an event from scratch. Now, the other really cool thing about this here is you could do long clicks too. So for example, if I just click down the button really quick for down, see how on here it's going down really quick? Well, I can also hold down the button and have that do something completely different. So for example, let's just go and add event, and we're going to do a long this time. So it's going to be a long press on the flaps up. And we'll do send simulation event, and let's pick something to do for a long. Maybe we want the long press to switch the nav GPS button. So what we can do is drives. Okay, GPS drives nav, that's the one. And yep, click OK here. And for up, okay. So now, if I do an up and I hold the up, it switches my nav to GPS. Now, unfortunately, I'm on the configuration view here. You can't see this on my simulator, but take my word for it. If I hold the flaps up button, I can see my nav GPS indicator switch over. So, and I'm doing it again, and I see it switch over again. So, you could set this up for the long event to do whatever you want, So that's a pretty cool feature too. Now, let me show you something a little bit more complex. Let's go to, we'll go to approach. How about that? Okay, and we're just going to erase everything in here for the time being. Okay, now let's set up a light condition where the light is going to flash if my RPM for my propeller aircraft right now goes above a certain RPM level. Okay, so let's try that. We're going to do add event. In this case, we're going to change button light. And we're going to need a condition and an action. So first, we'll do the action. So we're going to do button light mode. And we're going to do long mode, which means it's going to flash. Okay. So what this is saying is I'm going to make the approach light flash if a certain condition is going to be made. So that's what this does. This is going to set up the light itself. Now we have to set up what the condition is. So up here we're going to go add. We're going to select the data to base our condition on. And we're going to do this prop RPM is what we're looking for. Prop RPM. Yeah, so this is going to be propeller 1 RPM. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now, here's what we have here. We have equals, so I can have the button light turn on if a certain value is equal. But that's not what I'm going to do in this case. I want it to be over a certain value. So let's do if prop RPM is greater than, and let's do 1,500. So if my prop, let's do OK here. So if my prop RPM is greater than 1,500, then my light should flash. So let's just try this here. So I'm going to go over to the sim, and I'm going to increase my throttle. I got my parking brake on, right? So my RPM currently is at 500. I'm going to go to max right now. Let this go above. And yeah, so my approach button right now is flashing on my sim. You can't really see it on here. You can see it's lit, but you can't really see it. But on my sim, it's flashing right now because I'm at 2,100 RPM. Okay, so we'll just decrease this here. Now here's the other thing to show you. Okay, my button on my sim is still flashing right now. The reason being is because I haven't set up a condition to tell it to turn it off if it goes lower than 1500. So we need to do that if I want my approach button to actually shut off now. So I'm going to add another event. And once again, it's going to be change button light. And the action is going to be a long mode. So we're going to do a button mode, long mode off this time. Okay. Now the condition we're going to do is much the same as before, but in the opposite way. Select data. And, oh, you know what? Let me show you one more thing, too. In case I'm already on prop 1, so this is the one I already need, but let's say you went out to something different, you can always go over here to recent and show you the last few recent commands you did. So this is a huge time saver sometimes. So I'm going to go into the same variable I was already in, which is prop 1. And this time, I'm going to do if it's less or equal to 1500, turn off. Okay, so that's what it's saying now. If prop 1 is less or equal than 1500, change the long mode button to off. So now what we can do is increase my throttle. It's above 1500. It's flashing. Now decrease throttle to 0. And once it passes below 1500, it stops flashing. Okay, so now let's take a look at a more advanced condition. Let's take one of my favorites I like here. Let's go to nav here, and right down at the bottom. Yeah, this is it here. I just love this one here. This is the one that I was showing where if my nav/GPS button is set to GPS and a localizer comes in range, my nav button will flash to let me know, hey, remember to switch this over to nav so I can actually fly the approach and the glide slope and have it active on my VOR indicator. Well, that's this rule here. So what this is saying is this is going to turn the nav light into long mode on, which means it's going to flash as opposed to just staying on. And the conditions for that to meet is number one, it's saying that the nav has to have the glide slope active, like in other words, it has to be in range of the glide slope, and the GPS drives nav equals on. So in other words, my GPS button is set to GPS. So if those two conditions are met, my nav is going to flash down here. So that's where you can get into really good detail with conditions set here. Now the other thing to notice too is the condition binding. You can have and or. So if I had this set to or right now, this wouldn't work. The reason being is because what that's saying is if the nav has a glide slope of 1, or if the GPS nav is equal to 1, turn that on. So in other words, if my GPS button was set to GPS, this light would flash no matter what, whether I was in glide slope or not. And conversely, too, if my GPS was set to nav, but I wasn't in range of the glide slope, the button would still flash. So that's not what I want at all. I want this to be an and condition, so that both of these conditions have to be met for this to flash. Now, you could add even more conditions in here. Like, for example, I could add another one, and let's say landing gear. Let's say I only wanted that button to flash if my landing gear was up. Okay, let's just do a search for gear. And gear position left, gear position 1. Okay, that's probably what we want. Let's just do this. And here's down here is telling what the variables are. So 0 is unknown, it doesn't know what it is. 1 is up and 2 is down for gear 1. Okay, so let's do OK. And I want to do up. So if condition equals up, click OK. Okay, so now what this is saying, in order for my light to flash, I would have to meet all 3 of these conditions. In other words, I'd have to be in range of the glide slope, I'd have to have the GPS button set to GPS, and I would have to have my landing gear in up position. So in other words, if my landing gear was in down position, this light wouldn't flash. So that's where you can add as many conditions as you want. I could put, and if my RPM is above 1500, and if my landing light happens to be off. Like you could do so many conditions, it's not even funny. That's why Spad.next is just such an excellent program, because you can really fine tune everything in here to what you want to do. So I'm never going to want the gear position to be an equation here, so I'm just going to delete that from here, and actually I'll just cancel out of here. I'm just showing you, how you would do that there. So yeah, I could go into detail of how I do every one of my settings, but that would make this video probably about 16 hours long. So I'm just showing you, what the basic conditions are, what the basic actions are, and then from there you can fool around. And you know what, guys? It's really straightforward. Basically, you can go into any one of my pre-existing conditions here and just click on it. And well, let's do like this one, for example, and you could see for yourself what all these are and what all of them do. You can double click on them and check out all the different stuff. And then you can figure out how to do this on your own after a little bit of practice, and it's really good. And also, you know what? The creator of Spad.next, Connex, his name's Ulrich. He's really, really good with responding to any questions you have. So if you go to his website and you have any questions, and you're especially if you're a registered user, he responds to you right away. So he's a really, really great guy. So unfortunately, I can't really do support for you on this and answer all your questions because I'm just too busy. But if you're a registered user, you can always ask the developer if you run into any problems. And also check out the forum, because chances are if you have a question, chances are somebody else has already had that question in the past, and those guys on the forum, they're just awesome. You know what I mean? And they'll be more than willing to help you out if it's a question that they can answer. And if not, then the developer will answer for you. So either which way, it's a win-win scenario. So guys, I hope this was helpful for you, and stay tuned. I'm going to make a video for my radio panels because I got some really good customizations with them too, especially with some of my knobs and everything like that to drive other aspects of the sim. So stay tuned for that, and yeah, thanks a lot for viewing, and have yourself a great day.